I just wanted to give a few slides on some history of AI and what I know, and we can start to compile more notes on what we know together and how we might want to partner and use similar data going forward in our studies. These are the learning objectives of my um, advanced research class this summer, just trying to understand the role of qualitative analysis in doing heritage at risk, to get some information about natural language processing, which seems to be a recommended way to go. I wanted to do some application of methods. A lot of people I've met who do AI, they learned within their data set. So it wasn't as much they learned how to do AI and then went looking for data. They had data and they started experimenting from there and looking at the effectiveness and limitations of AI and how it can be helpful. So that's where I was at the end of the summer, and I'm still working on parts of that for my dissertation. But I think the start of the AI goes back to Alan Turing with his computing machinery and intelligence back in 1950. And that's a really great article. And the quote I liked from there: "We can only see a short distance ahead, but we can see plenty there that needs to be done." And his ideas of how far machines, computers would take us is kind of spot on for where we are now, as far as what he predicted for 50 years in the future, the kinds of things we would be able to do. And then also the proposal for research at Dartmouth was a project on artificial intelligence in 1955, and that was really the first um, phrasing of the term artificial intelligence that I could find. And they had a summer project, and the proposal seems easier to find than their finding report. So I'll be curious if anyone has that. I did do a literature review of 115 articles and was looking at site stewardship, AI, and especially ethics, as in historic preservation. They have ethics too, but our archaeology ethics, I think, should have more to say about AI. And a couple resources, oh, I think I'll get to them in a second. I found tables or figures like this really helpful as far as looking at what the different terms are under the larger umbrella of artificial intelligence. And I also found like the ethical issues seeming to get more and more complex, especially as you get into generative AI. And then just some notice of the difference between data science and artificial intelligence, that there's a lot of overlap, but they are not the same things. Whereas deep learning is artificial intelligence, machine learning is artificial intelligence, just under that bigger umbrella. I was looking first for where we use it quantitatively, because I think there's a lot published about quantitative studies. So I have like a 4 or 5 page table that just looks at what the project was, what discipline was using it, what types of AI they were using, looking at different software or apps that they integrated, and then getting citations for those. I also have a table on 34 common acronyms, because archaeology is already acronym heavy enough that having more than 34, I found a GitHub page that I think had 260 acronyms that are used in AI. These are some of the workflows for projects that are doing data-driven heritage management and the processing pipeline for natural language processing. So I had hoped to do NLP with my data this summer, and I've done some AI enhanced work, but I have not done a fully AI processed project. The ethics, here's the SAA ethics. I looked back because I was on the task force for revision, and artificial intelligence did not appear anywhere in all the surveys we got. We had over 100 responses, and we did follow-up calls. So I think it's interesting it didn't show up in any, and at that point, whereas I think the idea was that the ethics would be kind of living and easier, more flexible to change. But I don't think any professional organization, put it in the chat and we can discuss it, has ethics clearly put out. I think they're doing it for journals and for guidelines for that. But as far as, I would think it would fall under stewardship and responsibility, maybe even in reporting. And then these were some of the issues I got into: the impact on the climate, which is a severe one for using AI, about needing to cool the computers and the toll that takes on the digital storage, even the cloud that we are recording to now. I really like this, managing artificial intelligence in archaeology, and they had a big project funded and came out with some really great guidelines, some good publications, and they had the annotated bibliography where most of the quantitative projects I had in the table, I could find them there and branch out. There are some good academic guidelines. Hitch in 2023 has a whole section on using AI in academia and how things should be cited, which I have an example of in here. The constraints in digital dependence, issues related to archaeological visualizations. And I am a sucker for every single thing I see online I think is true. And they're like, Sarah, it's AI. I'm like, dang it. And then another one on academic integrity and AI auditing. If you listen to Ologies with Ali Ward, she had Dr. Briani on there recently, and she is an auditor for tracing down the source of a lot of what AI uses and the ethical, unethical uses. For example, mining a lot of the newspapers, et cetera. So this relates to my own methodology. So I have learned this statement incorporates elements of natural language processing, but is best described as human AI collaborative qualitative analysis that uses language modeling to synthesize rather than full automated NLP. And I wonder how many people who use AI are kind of getting into this kind of cozy spot where you're using it and you're using the tools, but it's still very much human driven and maybe enhanced with AI tools. So this summer, I wanted to apply AI to the site stewardship data I've been working on for a long time, because we had lots of great surveys and interviews. This was the group that we had surveyed in 2022 to follow up on Samantha Rubinson, who had really talked to this group on the far left of this tree. But I knew about all these other programs and also the international ones. So we were able to get some of the surveys, but really these really juicy, long interviews. And then what to do with those was the question. So these were the follow-up interview questions we asked. And my idea was, in time for SAA, to have everything coded and done. And then in the end, I ended up just going with one question and looking at the responses for SAA, I think in 2023. So the old way of doing this would be using concept maps like Elaine Davis, now Franklin, used at Crow Canyon. And you can, I did a concept map for each project. And then the problems I got into, you can see this was the most complex one, the Thames Discovery Program, that just has stewards working out monitoring impacts on the Thames River in London. And you can see just all these what would be tags that came up. And for concept maps, you can score them using the crossovers. I didn't write in each and every word like you're supposed to, but gives you an idea. This was going to take forever, ever. Instead, I was able to use AI and ChatGTP and take the interviews, get a summary that we could put. This was all going in our NPS technical brief on site stewardship. So I was able to get like a good abstract. I was able to get the code book for the natural language processing. And I was also able to send the short, the longer narrative, and the code book to each group to review. And if anything, people sent me updates more than they sent me corrections. And that first concept map, if it'll let me go backwards. No, it won't. Lucky for me, because I'll be done with the slides quicker. But the first concept map, I mean, it took me weeks. I have this big binder of going through. And then when I thought, well, I'll just do this for the summer research, I'll just start with Alaska and see how far I get. I was able to process all the interviews in less than 2 hours. So that's a really powerful tool. So I could spend more time looking at the comparisons. So these are AI generated results of the programs by leadership, geography, tech usage, focus, and we can check these against the quantitative data we got from the surveys that Samantha Rubinson processed. And then I'm hoping for my dissertation, an important part of this project was I want to use it in my dissertation when I'm working with the Gullah Geechee, but that's a very sensitive community, and I didn't want to experiment in the data I received from them, or I wanted to show them the power of what I could do if allowed. Well, it turns out we had this grant that was going not well. It wasn't my grant, it was someone else's, and I really wanted to help out. And they needed these mass um, summaries, a lot of tables, a lot of comparative work. They did have some surveys from Gullah Geechee members. There was a lot. And I said, I can get it to you in 2 hours, but I'm going to have to use AI. And they're like, do it, or they would have to potentially get back $30,000 of the grant money. So my way into using AI with the Gullah Geechee was at their request and has been an interesting thing to think about. So I just want to give this disclaimer. During the presentation of this work, the author used ChatGPT 4.0 in order to improve readability and language. After using this tool service, the author reviewed and edited the content as needed and takes full responsibility for the content of the publication. And that was recommended by one of the academic ethics use of AI. And really sharing why we know what's going on in this country. The amount of site stewards we may need is going to be increased, as well as areas that are becoming closed off or not marginalized groups, and their data were already like so little known about compared to others, that if there's things we can do to look at these cultures and get ahead, like my going through my concept maps for the site stewardship programs was not going to get the coverage I wanted in the time I needed. And same for the Gullah Geechee. In the time, the frame they're working on and chasing down development, they really need to and agree to use every tool in their capacity to stop the desecration of human burial sites. So that's all I had for the intro. And then I would love to mute myself and hear from the group